next few weeks, we're going to talk about two things: who we are and who God is. And along the way, we're going to look at some true stories to help discover who we are and who God is. But we're also going to look at some not-so-true stories. And I think today's not-so-true story is one that we can all relate to. Hopefully you've seen the movie Toy Story. If you haven't, you probably should watch it. But in the movie Toy Story, Woody is a toy cowboy, and he's Andy's favorite toy. Or at least Woody was Andy's favorite toy until Buzz Lightyear showed up. There's a scene in Toy Story where Woody, he has sort of an identity crisis because Buzz Lightyear arrives on the scene and steals the title of Andy's favorite toy. Before Buzz was there, Andy knew exactly who he was. He was the favorite toy, he was special, he was important, he was a leader. But Woody began to doubt himself when Andy's attention shifted away from him to Buzz. This guy shows up with new skills, qualities, areas of expertise that Woody just didn't have. So Woody was full of insecurity and fear and self-doubt and eventually jealousy. And these kept growing until Woody found himself with so much hatred toward Buzz that he was ready to get rid of him forever. Have you ever been jealous of someone else? I know I have. There was this guy in high school, and we had grown up together, and we were friends, and I just thought, man, he's so much cooler than me. Whenever I'd see him at lunch, I'm like, man, I want to dress like him, and I want to know what kind of music he was into and do the things that he wanted to do, and he just seemed to always have it together. And I was like, I just want to have the life that that guy has. If you're like me or like Woody and you've ever felt insecurity and fear and jealousy, I want you to know that you're not alone. The book of Genesis, the first book of the Bible, is filled with stories from the very beginning of humanity, including a story about two brothers, Cain and Abel. When we read their story in Genesis chapter 4, Abel is a shepherd and Cain is a farmer. And they would bring sacrifices to God. And we're told that the Lord had regard for Abel and his offering, but for Cain and his offering, the Lord had no regard. So Cain became angry. And the Lord came and talked to him about this and said, why are you angry? Why has your face fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? See, we don't know exactly what God's problem was with Cain's offering, but my guess is that he wasn't putting his best forward, and that maybe he had an attitude problem with the way he was sacrificing to God. Cain was so angry with God, and so jealous of his brother, and so afraid of not being seen as important and worthy of love, that he lashes out and actually kills his brother. And Cain isn't the only person in the Bible who attacked their brother out of jealousy. Later in the same book, in the book of Genesis, we meet a teenager named Joseph and his 11 brothers and their father, Jacob. Joseph was by far his father Jacob's favorite child, and Jacob didn't even try to hide it. Joseph got the bulk of his father's attention and affection. He got this fancy new coat. And then Joseph started having these dreams that someday his mother and father and his brothers would worship him, serve him, that he would rule over them. And he began bragging about it. And just like Woody and Cain and Joseph's brothers, they let their fear and insecurity turn to jealousy, which turned to anger, which turned toward hatred. And the only reason Joseph didn't end up like Abel is because one of Joseph's brothers stepped in and would not let them kill him. Instead, they sold Joseph into slavery. His remaining brothers told their father that he had died. See, we might think that jealousy is harmless, but what these stories tell us is that it's destructive, that it leads towards violence. It's not good for us. It's not good for those around us. Many years after Cain, Abel, and Joseph and Joseph's brothers, some of the first followers of Jesus, they wrestled with jealousy too. And here's what Paul, an early leader in the church and author of most of the New Testament, including a letter called 1 Corinthians, wrote to these Christians about their jealousy. In 1 Corinthians chapter 12, he begins talking to them about how God's Spirit gives each of Jesus' followers unique gifts. And we all have a purpose, and part of our purpose is to let God use us for the good of others. He tells them that their gifts are unique to them, and that their identity isn't just about them, it's found in community with other people and in Jesus. And what we see here is a little bit of who God really is. God is generous, giving us more than we could ever imagine and something that's unique for us, and that God is caring and concerned about us and others. We also find here some stuff about us, who we are. Even though a lot of us have insecurity and we're comparing ourselves to other people and we're jealous, this jealousy isn't just destructive, it's illogical. We read in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 14 through 16 this. Yes, the body has many different parts, not just one. Paul's talking about the church, Christians being God's body. If the foot says, I'm not part of the body because I'm not a hand, that doesn't make it any less a part of the body. And if the ear says, I'm not part of the body because I'm not an eye, would that make it any less a part of the body? In other words, what he's saying is, just because you're not the same as another person that you see, you shouldn't be jealous of them, because you all have a role to play. God's uniquely created and gifted you. See, you were created by a God who is good, generous, and caring. And you are known and carefully designed by your Creator, who is always with you. You have a unique purpose to fill that only you can fulfill, and the whole community of people around you to love and support you. If you've ever struggled with jealousy or felt insecure or unimportant, I want you to remember this. We can have confidence in who we are because of who our Creator is. Because of who God is, we can trust how God has made us. It's so easy to focus on what we don't have, who we aren't, and the things we don't like about ourselves. But I want to challenge you to think differently. I want you to take some time to, in your own words, write out some ideas about who God is and what God, your Creator, would say about who you are and what your purpose is. And let me give you some just guide rails when you're thinking about what it looks like to brainstorm about who God is and who you are. I want you to be real. No one else will see this but you. So don't try to fool yourself or impress someone else. Be real about what you write. Also, look for the good. It's so easy for us to focus on the negative, but look at the good. You are made by a loving Creator, and there's so much to love about who you are. Also, I want you to dream big. Sometimes we put these limitations on how we think about ourselves, but there's no limit to what God can do through you. It can be hard to see ourselves clearly. And that might be because we're still trying to figure out who we are. And one of the reasons we were created to be in community with other people is that sometimes we need a little bit of help seeing who we are from other people's perspectives. And other people can show us a little more clearly who we are. Over the next few weeks, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about who God is and who we are. And hopefully you'll begin to discover over the next few weeks that you've been uniquely designed. And as you discover more about who God is, I hope you'll come to love your Creator even more than you do right now. This week, I want to challenge you to remember to pray and to trust this one truth. Because of who God is, we can trust how God has made us.